Today's episode is how God lifts you out of despair. And I know this from experience. It can be very frustrating and perplexing and confusing. If you believe in God, God is everywhere and God has all the power in the world. And yet, here I am in my life and I'm miserable and I'm lost and I don't know what's going on. Where's God? Why isn't God loves me, loves everybody? Shouldn't he do something, make that better? You have to know where to look for God. God's always there, but you got to understand the mechanism by which he can lift you out of despair. So we've got a simple science experiment here with some spiritual symbolism in it that's going to show you where the handhold is next time you're trying to climb out of that pit, what's available to you and how God does work, unseen sometimes, but always present, to lift us out when we need lifting. So despair and hopelessness, no fun, inescapable part of life. Actually, sometimes an important part of our spiritual growth, but not something that when you're in it, you ever want it to be happening. It feels, among other things, like you're drowning. Actually, water and drowning in water is a great symbol for despair because there's a correspondence. So water is usually a symbol of the truth. You drink water, makes you alive, right? The water is how you wash it. It does all these important things for the human being, just like truth does for the mind. But on the reverse side of it, water can be incredibly destructive, and it's not something you want to be submerged in. It can also be a symbol of falsities. Not to send you further into despair, but this is you. You're going to be this egg in this episode. And what I want to illustrate here is this is like your consciousness. And when you're in despair, it's like you sunk all the way to the bottom. And there's all these falsities pressing down on you from above, surrounding you. And this is right when we want God to lift us out. But the weight that we feel just seems like it pulls you down. So how would you get it so that you can rise up out of this? Okay, so have you ever felt like an egg at the bottom of the water? That's where we are right now. We want to get up here, and God is going to lift us up here to that happiness water top. The way that God lifts you out of despair is through the truth. The salt in this experiment is the truth. Swedenborg talks extensively about the particular role that the truth we have in our mind plays in God being able to pull us up out of the despair that we're in. This is from Secrets of Heaven 5044. First, I need to define truth that governs in a state of trial. Truth from the Lord flows into all who are undergoing spiritual trials and rules and governs their thoughts. It lifts them up whenever they fall into doubt or even despair. So truth is the thing that's going to lift you, but it's a particular kind of truth that can govern your thoughts. This governing truth is the kind and type of truth that we have learned from the Word or from doctrine and have strengthened in ourselves. So not just stuff that maybe you've heard, but things that you've made a part of yourself, some things that somehow you can stand on. Like this, I've thought about this a lot. I've incorporated this into my life. This is something that I believe to some extent. We do recall other kinds of truth as well at such times, but they do not exert control over our inner depths. Only things that you really come to love, not because somebody else told you is true, not because someone else told you is how things really are, but because you have learned this through your own experience. That's what is there for you. And that's what God can work through in these situations. It's usually the spiritual big picture truths that can push back against the kinds of things that would ever get you into despair like this. Because the reality of life is that everything's fine. Everything is absolutely fine. You have God who knew about you way before you were born, has got all these good plans, and is making sure your life is leading you to where you need to go. Life is good. Things are going to work out okay. Divine providence is in every detail. Those kinds of truths are the things that can lift you up. This is an artificial condition. Never, if we really knew how things were, would we feel like it's hopeless or I'm in despair. So it's by remembering those big picture truths that we've strengthened in us during the good times that God can remind us of those things when we need it. This is another reason why you want to go and learn the truth. This is why we're putting these videos out over and over to try to equip ourselves with enough of these truths that when we need them, there's a good, ample supply. And it even works when you don't consciously remember the truth. Even if you're, I'm down in a pit of some kind and none of my spiritual concepts are popping up, there's still an effect those concepts are having on your mind behind the scenes. You're not as low as you would be without them. Sometimes this governing truth is invisible to our intellect, but it hovers secretly in the dark and governs us nonetheless. This is because the Lord's divine power flows into it, focusing the inner reaches of our mind on it. So you've got a deeper inner part of you that even when your outer kind of rational mind doesn't know where to turn, it doesn't see hope, there's a part of you that can feel like, wait, everything's okay. Everything, like it knows the truth even when you don't all the way know the truth. But sometimes when you're in that despair, one of these concepts will just pop out and give you that boost that you need. If that truth comes out into the open during our trials, then we take comfort from it and feel buoyed up. This is why this metaphor works. Of course, we talk about mood in terms of floating and sinking. So you've got this truth working deep within you to keep you from falling too far. And when the time is right, God can work into those things that are true, that you have made a part of you, that you believe to an extent, and lift you up through it. Just like this salt can actually make this egg float to the top. But it can't do it while it's sitting in this little container. Hey, hope you're enjoying the episode today. This content is brought to you by the not-for-profit Swedenborg Foundation, and we can only do what we do because people support us with donations. If you want to make a donation to help support the work we do, click the link in the description. Thank you so much. Back to the show. Hey, look at me. I keep getting more stuff. You jealous? Like every single scene, I got more and more stuff here. The egg, you can kind of pretend it's still in here, but for what's about to happen, it needs to be there. We've got our truth, or the means by which God is going to lift us out, but it's in here, and we need to get it in there. And the way that you get truth into you, so it becomes a part of you that God can work through to have an impact on you, is you got to want the truth. You have to want it. This is from Secrets of Heaven 5044. It is not this truth itself, but our desire for it, through which the Lord governs us in our times of crisis. The divine does not flow into anything but what we desire. Truth sown and rooted in our inner dimensions is sown and rooted by desire. God can't help you through the truth that comes out of him if you don't care about the truth, if you don't love the truth. And actually, salt, beyond just being a symbol of truth, is a symbol of the desire for the truth. Because like, what does salt do? It makes food taste good. It makes you want to eat something. So if we care about these concepts, and if we love them, and if we want to know them and understand them, what that does then is adds them to us. And throughout your life, this can happen over and over. Actually, the more salt you get in, and it takes a ton of salt to make this thing work. The more salt you put in, the more desire for the truth you put in, the better God can lift you up. You got to work it in your life. You got to stir it up till it's all in everything you do, till the life that you live has this truth as a part of it. To underscore this, Swedenborg goes on, absolutely nothing takes root without desire. Truth sown and rooted through a desire for truth lasts, and the desire brings it back to mind. When it does, such truth brings forward the desire connected with it, and this desire is our response. You can start believing in spiritual or religious things because somebody tells you that's what's going on, or because you're, okay, I don't want to make God mad, so I'll do it. But in the end, the only truth that has any power in you is the truth that you love, the truth that you come to want and you come to act on because you think it's good. But if we have truth in us that we've loved and that we've used and that we've worked hard to understand, God can bring that to life. God can, when we're in this despair, use that to get us out. All right, let's see if we've worked enough truth into us. There's despair starting to try, but look at that. All that truth that we love, that now is a direct conduit to the divine. God can come in there and tell us, it's all right, it's okay, remember? I've got a plan for everything. Everything is under control. Goodness is what matters, and that's what lifts you. That is what God is trying to get us to, where there's enough truth in there that gravity can't pull you down. Let's go, little egg. Let's take a quick break from the egg metaphor, because we're not actually talking about eggs. We're talking about the truth. And there are many symbols for the truth. And another one, especially that has to do with healing truth, is leaves. Maybe you've heard in the book of Revelation, it says the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. It was a beautiful sentiment. I've always loved that passage. And it's about how the truth can heal you. Go back thousands of years in human history. People are using plants of all kinds to heal themselves. Have you ever burned yourself and you get like a little aloe and put it on? No? Am I a hippie? Okay. When our spirits are sick or wounded or in despair, the medicine for that is true concepts. It's always going to take a little bit of time, but the truth can really move that process along. This is from Apocalypse Revealed. The leaves of the tree were for the healings of the nations. This symbolizes the rational truths by which people caught up in evils and the accompanying falsities are brought to think sanely and to live decently. I think sane and decent is not too bad. So evil means harmful things. So if you're in despair, that doesn't mean you're necessarily being an evil person, but it is evil or harmful thoughts that are attacking you, that are flooding you, that are trying to convince you of this non-reality. Our lower level minds are vulnerable to all kinds of false thoughts and lies that can bring us down, but true concepts can reach the upper level, the rational level of our mind. Swedenborg says, our rational mind is the first receptacle of spiritual truths. So God will use that part of our mind, and the truths that are in it will by lifting us out of the ego-based lower level thinking into a higher, more rational perspective. And that's where the truth, the leaves, can start to heal. Swedenborg says in Secrets of Heaven, and this is a little map of what you go through. As for times of trial or challenge, what happens during them is that the hells fight against us, and the Lord fights for us. Every time the hells foist a false thought on us, the deity responds. Falsity from the hells is introduced into our outer earthly self and influences it, but the deity's response works on our inner spiritual self. Just like we were saying in the beginning, there's truth deep in you, even if you're not always aware of it. That's where God operates, from the inside to the periphery. He goes on, the deity's influence does not intrude as much on our awareness as hell's does, nor does it rouse specific thoughts, only general thoughts. This is why, when you're in despair, it can seem like all my thoughts are against me. Where's God? Because all I'm hearing is this negative stuff. Because hell is by nature more pushy. But if you know where to look for it, you can feel the divine in there. It operates in such a way that we barely sense it, except as a kind of hopefulness and resulting comfort. But the hope and comfort hold countless gifts to which we are oblivious. These gifts take a form that harmonizes with our passions or loves, especially our passion or love for the truth and goodness that form our conscience. So even if it sounds like the whole crowd in your mind is against you, God is there, and you can look for God in that calm, still, small voice of comfort, hope, and especially things that go along with the good and true things that you love. So I hope that what you learned through this episode is where to look for God when you're in despair. God is there, but we have to have awareness of how to connect to God's presence there. And it's always going to be through the truth that you love. So it's almost like the response that God gives is different for every person, because everybody has different truths that they've come to love. They apply to their life in a different way, but they're there, and they always push you in the direction of hope. I want to close by showing you there's an article on Swedenborg.com that was written by Peter King that I really love. This is him talking about an experience of depression that he came through, and what kind of messages were the salt for him as he was going through it. I am neither my faults nor my virtues. I can choose my path. Never forget that people love me and I love them. Depression is not me. Depression is temporary. Love is permanent. Depression is weaker than me. I do not fear it. Which is all exactly true. Right? That is the world that Swedenborg describes. That's how it comes through Peter. How's it going to come through you? What is it going to be that lifts you up? Look for the truth that you love. when things are overwhelming. And that's where you're going to find God, lifting up the egg of your heart.